Sweet. Thank you, Jane. So, this is Career Lab Wednesday, and we are getting ready for holidays. In fact, many of us are probably have been doing that for some time now. But we've been talking about using the holidays to get connection, get nourishment, network, and to take advantage of the time if we're in job hunting mode or looking for our next step in career, to use it as a time of reflection. What have we done well in the year, and what do we want more of in 2023? What we have a special guest with us, Drew Allison. So welcome, Drew. And you reached out to me last week, sharing some information with me about you and your job. And so I'm really looking forward to working with you and getting your insights, joining you in your search over the next couple weeks, month, or whatever we end up getting into here. So I wanted to welcome you and welcome our audience into that. I'll say a little bit more about how to engage with us. So Career Lab Wednesday, every noon to 1 p.m. Central Time, we're here, and our main job is to support you in your career. So we put out topics. Of course, we're putting out holiday topics right now, but the most important thing for us is that your career concerns, your questions, the things that you're striving for, that we're addressing that. So whatever's on your heart, we invite you to jump in and engage. The best way to do that is to jump in on this Zoom line, and you can work with us directly that way. If you can't, if you're viewing it on LinkedIn Live or on YouTube, then you can type your questions into the comment section, and Jane will shoot those over to us, and we'll do our best to address your questions. So I'll repeat this in a little bit, but I just wanted to set the stage for how to engage. And Drew, so welcome again, and I invite you to share with us what brings you here today.
Well, George, I really appreciate you allowing me to come on and talk through some of the things that are going on and get some support and be able to share my story with others. I found out last week that my job is being eliminated. My company is letting me go in February. So I'm in a very unique position where I've got about six to 8 weeks where I still have to continue to do my job and be there, but I am very, very much actively searching for my next opportunity. And as after the initial shock wore off, this Career Lab community, I thought would be a great place to kind of work through some of what I'm thinking about and the strategies that I'm using, and getting your support and Gordon's support to make the most of this opportunity, and also navigate the fact that it is the end of the year and people aren't as available as they will be in a couple of weeks. So how do I maximize my time right now? How do I get the most out of this current situation? So kind of a tough time, but very happy to be here.
Gotcha. Drew, thank you. Thank you for that. And welcome, Dr. Gordon Medlock. Good to have you on.
Thank you. And good to see you, Drew. Glad you could be here today.
Good to see you.
Looking forward to helping you.
So for starters, one of the things you mentioned was right now, holiday time, not able to get in touch with people. So what is it that you're doing as you are continuing to work? What have you done so far, Drew?
Well, the first thing I did was dust off my resume and get support with my resume. So I haven't updated my resume in over 5 years, and so it's been a minute. And now I've done a tremendous amount of interviewing and hiring on the other side of the desk. So I had a good sense of what I like to see in resumes, but I also made sure to share my resume with a few people in my network and get their feedback. So I found out last Wednesday that about the job being eliminated, and I had my resume cleaned up and ready to go within 24 hours. That was kind of my first step. Like, let's get that done, and then we can take the rest from there. And I think the big thing for me right now is figuring out how to brand myself. How do I tell my story in a way that resonates with potential employers so they understand where I'm coming from and what I've done, but also showing them what kind of an asset I can be for the company. And I'm somebody that really sees myself doing a lot of different things. It's not like I'm just looking to stay in one industry or one, just sales or just marketing. I'm really looking for a strong community that I can join, and somewhere where I get to do a little bit of everything, where I may have a core division of responsibility, within most likely sales. Sales has been my focus for most of my career, but getting to be really involved and engaged with, folks in the marketing team, technology, operations, and really get to partner with other people. So it's, as you can hear, I have a lot of interests. I have a lot of things I want to do. But what I'm learning as I'm starting to talk to people, people want to support me, which is so wonderful. And they reach out to me and they're like, Drew, how can I help? But they don't want to hear this whole philosophical laundry list of things I want to do with my life. Like they want a clear, this is what, this is how you can help me.
Yeah.
So I'm just now in the process of almost coming up with 3 different pitches, a sales pitch, a marketing pitch, and a business development pitch. Those are the 3 areas where I see myself, really going next to my career. And then deciding as I talk to people which pitch is most appropriate, and really not feeling like I need to tell them the whole story, but tell them the part of the story that's going to resonate with them and give them the ability to help me.
Excellent. I'll jump on this for a bit, George Donald. Okay. So that's exactly the way to handle that. When you've got a bunch of things you want to do, is to parse it out into 3 campaigns and make that sort. So good job with that. I think that's right on. And listening to what your audience wants to hear. The other thing I'd like to just set as context is the importance of really doing your research on what companies do you actually want to work for. Yeah. Or looking at who is out there, what are the cultures you're looking for, what are the kinds of opportunities, the kind of positions you're looking for, and do your due diligence in really digging into the ones that really you feel would be a really good fit for you. Because when you've done that, then you kind of know how to tailor your story, let's say that, to what their interests and concerns are, and you get a sense of what they're up against, what the challenges are, so you can really ask intelligent questions about them and get to know them and what their issues are, and then you can bring in your skill set to help address those issues. So it becomes less about these are all the things that Drew Allison can do, and more about what are the concerns you have and how can I help you? And so I guess that would be one of the questions I have is what thought have you given to the kind of organization, or the specific organizations you might want to work for?
It's a great question. And, it's so funny. I think about kind of weird. I think about dating advice I got from my dad when I was in high school, where the relationship you get out of is going to inform the relationship you're about to go into. So you bring the baggage of your previous, and it's the same way with work, right? So I've been in the insurance industry for 4 years, after spending 10 years in the high-end retail space. And I really miss a high level of risk tolerance. So in the insurance industry, everything is very meticulously planned and thought out, and they don't like to take risks on things at all. And it's been a really fun challenge for me, instigating risk, adding new technologies, a new ad campaign, in different ways that we can really reinvent our business. But after 4 years in the industry, I really crave an environment with a lower risk tolerance, so I can be joined in those efforts with other people to bring change wherever I'm at. Embracing new technologies, new processes, new ideas, and be able to move a little faster. So if I have an idea, vetting it within the company, but being able to act on that idea pretty quickly, figure out if it's going to work or not work, and be able to just try new things more often. So I think, to answer your question, I'm looking for a company culture that is open to allowing people to try new things And it's okay if they fail. It's, you're going to fail most of the time, but by opening that door, when you open up the chance of hitting something that'll really, really work. So, it's, whether it's an established company, a startup, somewhere in between, a startup that's been around for quite a while. I'm really open to that side of culture. Like I'm open to taking a chance on a small startup if there's an opportunity there, as long as they're willing to give me a little free rein to really bring new ideas to the operation.
I'm going to pretend I'm the interviewer now, having heard that. So tell me about a time when you did what you're describing here, where you explored, got a new idea, implemented it, and really made a difference for the business.
Yeah, absolutely, Gordon. And I think the idea that really stands out for me is when I realized that all of our outreach at a previous company I worked for, all of our outreach was geared towards mortgage loan officers. And we were putting a lot of energy and a lot of attention into wooing these loan officers to work with us. And I sold insurance. So when a loan officer would work with us, they would send us leads of people that were getting loans, and we would do the insurance for their new home. And I wanted to put resources into developing relationships with not the loan officers specifically, but their support team members. And I wanted to put money and resources into really making those support team members feel cared for and supported by us. And this was something that the company hadn't really thought about before. And they were really nervous about spending money on people that weren't really known as the decision makers in the office, right? The loan officer is the king of their castle and the queen of their castle. But what I realized is that the loan officer doesn't really care about the insurance. By the time the loan gets to the insurance, the loan officer is working on another deal. But the people that really care about insurance that's going to work for the loan and work for the borrower, it's their support specialists. So by spending my time building relationships with the support specialists, I was able to get more referrals and better quality referrals from those team members as opposed to the loan officers directly. And I had to convince my manager to allow me to spend money to send some little gifts and some welcome, some little candy and treats to those folks as opposed to the loan officers, as well as convince them that I had good business already in my network, as opposed to going out and finding new business from new loan officers. So it was a new marketing strategy and a new allocation of resources. And I was able to get a lot more business than I had previously because I was able to take advantage of that new technique.
Okay, super, good example. Couple pieces of feedback on that. One
Great.
is you want to compress it to a little shorter. So
Great.
you get the story done in 1.5 to 2 minutes, something like that. And you want to quantify where you can, like what was the actual difference and how much new business did you get that was not available before? So I have an assurance that this actually worked. Because if I'm hearing the story, I'm thinking, whoa, would that work? I don't know. Is that a good idea? So
Yeah.
I want the story to land with a demonstrated business outcome that
Right.
kind of gets me to think, I'll be darned. That's interesting. So
if you go back and look at the recording of this, Drew, at about a minute or 1:30 in, you actually said like a concise thing of what you did, and it took you some time to get there, but then you did nail it. And if you lead with that, then I'm hooked. And I'm like, okay, and I'll ask you questions about how you did it. And it can be more of a dialogue.
Nice. Awesome feedback.
We call these PAR statements, and it's actually a good way to think about your resume as structured bulleted PAR statements. Problem, action, result, PAR. What's the problem I was addressing? What's the action I specifically took? That's important because sometimes you're part of a team and you could say, we did this, but they want to know, what did you do? So problem, action you took, and the result quantifiable if possible to how you resolve the problem.
I love that. I love that PAR idea. I wasn't familiar with that strategy. That's great.
Yeah, really, and then you think of all your bullet points, instead of them being descriptions of or duties and responsibilities, they become embedded PAR statements or accomplishment statements. Basically your accomplishments are embedded in each of those bullet points. It becomes a kind of outline for your interview.
Got it. Got it.
I
Oh,
want
interesting.
to
Go ahead.
underline this for everybody viewing in. What people are looking for, Dr. Medlock, you've shared this over the years, is results, is people who get results. And you've often said that there's two things. One that's kind of more, people are more conscious of, that we're looking for people who get results. And then the second thing that we might be a little less conscious of is we're looking for people that we want to work with. And so so there's the social and emotional intelligence aspect of it. But with the getting results, if you can demonstrate that you get results, it makes it easier for me, the interviewer or somebody looking at a resume, to see that and translate it to the business that I'm running. And to say, oh, cool, he got those results there. And I'm starting to now work with what I need in my company and the problem, like why I'm hiring somebody for this. And it facilitates the process of me seeing how you might fit in.
Yeah, that's really spot on. And Gordon, you mentioned a resume being an outline for the interview. And I also had not necessarily considered a resume to be to serve that function. And I love that idea of you using that as a way to script, and give people, to reference the resume in a way that if they've read it, they feel like there's a cohesive narrative. But also, if they haven't looked at it too closely, my story isn't reliant on them knowing the resume either.
And also, just one qualifier with that. By that, I mean, it's sort of the menu of things you can choose to talk about, not that you go through them all, right?
So, yeah, sure. Yeah, very good. Very good. So I guess I have a question for you. I've always subscribed to the school of thought that a resume should not be longer than a page. And this is the first time in my career where I really have probably 2 pages worth of experience that I could put together. And what I've done so far is I've really consolidated the past 4 years into the bulk of the resume and really shown what I've done it from a leadership standpoint, a results standpoint in the insurance industry. And then I offered a smaller blurb on my previous experience, all on the same page, as opposed to going to a second page. I'd be curious what your
one piece, just to clarify, is this are you talking about getting an open-ended question from the interviewer and then how do I respond to it?
Yes.
Well, go ahead, Drew. Let me hear your response, then I'll chime in with whatever I might want to add to that later.
One thing I'm very excited to be going on more interviews, because I find interviewing to be really interesting, because everybody comes at it with their own approach. And often when somebody is new at being an interviewer, they tend to ask more of these open-ended questions, like, tell me about a time when this and when that, and they, they're easy things to prepare for, but I always try to listen for something that I can specify my answer to, whether it's in the question that they've just asked or something we talked about previously. I want to show them that I'm responding to our specific conversation, as opposed to just having a canned answer that I have ready to go for each of the standard interview questions. So my mind is always kind of working in the background of like, how can I take my story and apply it to this specific individual or this specific situation so they resonate with what I'm saying. And then we turn the open-ended question into more of a dialogue back and forth, where I'm able to learn as much about them and the company as they are about me and myself, and we can kind of learn together.
So Drew, you just convinced me that you have another skill set that I'm not sure is been labeled on your resume, but that was a brilliant answer. And it shows that you understand the interview process and probably a lot about this job search process. just to let you know, part of how I got into doing this work was because I was working my own career transitions, and I figured I have to figure out how to do this. So there's nothing like experience to give you that background. But but quite seriously, you have a very definite skill set in understanding this process, assessing talents from a recruitment standpoint, from a recruiting firm or talent management firm that's interested in people who are giving consulting advice around assessing talent. I think you have a talent in that area that you might want to look at as well.
I appreciate that. That's a great shout. I didn't think specifically about, kind of the talent acquisition or talent management aspect, but I did do a fair amount of that when I was with Guaranteed Rate a couple of years ago. And like you said, there's no replacing experience. And at one point I was facilitating about 15 interviews a week. And we were hiring, we had a completely open hiring call. So anybody that could fit the bill, we wanted to bring in. But that bill was really up to me and one other person to decide if these people could do the job.
Put like people like Korn Ferry on your list of companies you want to look to interview at, and think of a resume, a fourth channel around talent acquisition and talent assessment, because that's a very valuable and very well compensated profession in a lot of ways. Because as you know, the cost of a bad hire is really high, particularly at the executive level. So if you have a natural skill set in that, and it's a place that rewards high risk, high return, which sounds like really floats your boat.
It's a great shout. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Right on. Dr. Medlock, what do you mean by fourth channel?
He had three different things that he was going to do for his campaign. He had three different versions of his resume that he was going to just add a fourth one. This one is worth keeping on.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, I'm going to do a quick room reset. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Maggie. Good to have you on Zoom here. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to mute you, though. Okay, cool. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time, to support you in your career. So our approach is that your career is a vessel or pathway for you to reach your potential. And we've been talking with Drew Allison today, who's in a job hunt transition mode. And we're looking at how do you communicate what you really care about, what you want to get into in an effective way. And we invite everybody to join in with any questions that you have that does not have to be related to the specific topic today of connecting over holiday time. Anything that is on your heart, our job is to support you in your career moves. And with that, Maggie, I want to check in and see if there's anything that we can support you with today.
Thank you. I think I just really enjoy hearing the conversation. At this point, I'm in the job search currently myself. I've gone through a few transitions, and it's a transition currently as well. I'm in the healthcare industry, and I would like to continue to stay in that space. I'm just trying to navigate it as best as I can. So, but I've been listening to Drew about high risk management and so forth. Some disruptions going on, but I was listening on YouTube for a little bit, and then I got on through LinkedIn. So
welcome.
I'll continue listening to you guys because I feel like I love listening to other people. So I'll let you continue.
And as you're listening, as you begin to think of something you might want to contribute or focus on for yourself, please feel free to jump on. So no problem.
Thank you, Maggie. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah, and I think that we are in the holiday season, right? It's the end of the year, and lots of people are really focusing more on family and time off and personal time, and getting their year wrapped up. So I've been very conscious of that as I've had to embark. I'll be totally frank. I've got 5 paychecks to figure out where my next paycheck's coming from. That there's nothing more motivating than having a very clear moment when I need to make this happen. And so how do I make these weeks really mean something and be as important as possible? And One thing I obviously I opened myself up for recruiters to find me on LinkedIn, even if I couldn't put a blast on LinkedIn because I am still technically employed and I have to play those politics. But I did that, and I was able to get a couple of really like phone screen interviews pretty quickly. And I've made a point to just say yes to any conversation anybody's willing to have with me, even if I'm not 100% interested in the role, because it's giving me game time telling my story and getting back into the interview habit. And Gordon, I said I'd be curious, like, so that's my number one strategy right now, is just to be able to talk about my story as much as possible, so I'm as comfortable as I can be. But then also spending this time doing a lot of research into, like you said, the companies I want to apply to, and then really saving some of those initial outreaches until maybe the second week of January, when people are back and they can have a little bit more impact.
Yeah, I all the way with you on that. In terms of the timing, first or second week, whatever seems right to you is fine. But yeah, that sounds like a good idea. The terms of rehearsing your story is an interesting question, because on one level, you need to have a clear narrative, which I think you clearly do have, about what it is you're looking for and how it all lines up. Part of that narrative is, well, why did you leave your last organization? You've got a good answer for that right off the bat, right? It was a downsizing situation.
Yeah, and I was able to secure 2 referrals from my existing company that can speak to that, if on my behalf, and speak to my performance, and on top of that. So I've got that covered.
So that handles that. And then really part of this narrative is for you to be clear about your direction. And as you say, there's kind of like 3 different narratives you might be creating. But the idea is you want to be able to describe how whatever job you're interviewing for is the natural consequence of the story you're telling, so that it leads to exactly what it is you're talking about at that point, particularly when you're in the phase of looking at an opportunity, as opposed to simply informational interviewing, where it's a little bit more open-ended and you can be a little bit, you don't have to be quite so focused in that respect. But so it's just remembering that you're always kind of focusing on what the opportunity is you're looking at. And then the other thing is, and I think this is going to be maybe useful for you as well, it's less about the dog and pony show of what I've accomplished, even though that's absolutely essential to be clear about. But it's less about telling that story and more about a couple of things. Talking about how you've learned and grown in your positions. Talking about your development is a much more of a draw for people, because it's less of a look at all the good things I've done, which can be sort of, as you said, your friends don't want to hear all that necessarily. Right. But it's more about, this is what I learned out of that last job that was really valuable. This was something else, particularly always tailoring that to what kind of position you're looking for. So you want to be thinking in a developmental perspective rather than just simply look at all the things I've done. But probably the most important thing is you're really there to get in rapport with them about what they're dealing with. Why are they hiring for right now? What are the problems they're concerned about? Understanding them so you can talk about how you can support what they need. And so you're really interviewing them, in effect, to assess. You're kind of coming in as a consultant, and I think in your position, you can kind of try this on pretty easily, where you're there to really serve them and understand what their situation is, and bring that kind of social emotional intelligence piece, that relationship piece, into the conversation, which your instincts are already there, as I can see, to do that. So those are just a couple of tips on, yes, the narratives are very important, but these are some of the nuances of how you want to handle that. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I have basically an introductory conversation with Northwestern Mutual tomorrow, where I'm connected with their head of recruiting, and she on LinkedIn, and I reached out to her. I reached out to every recruiter that I'm connected to and let them know that I'm looking, and I gave them a first draft of my resume, and was just started getting myself out there. And actually the activity of that, activity begets activity, right? Like, just, it helped me feel better about, like, at least I'm doing something I can control. And she reached out to me right away. She hooked me up with the local office here in Chicago, and I've got a phone conversation tomorrow. And I think approaching that conversation as a real discovery for me to find out what their needs are, and how I could potentially, serve them in those needs is really smart, as opposed to going in just hoping to tell my story and kind of, brag on it. But I think there's a good balance to be struck there. I appreciate that context.
Cool. Good move.
This is great. I got to underline something you just said and address some questions we got coming in, but the activity begets activity. One of the things we find often when people are joining in the job search, that there's the idea of the right job, the exact right fit. And I have to figure that out. And if I think about it hard enough, then maybe I'll get it and then I'll know exactly what to do. And that just doesn't exist. So what you said about you're reaching out, now that's starting to set up more interactions for you. So you're getting more data. So as we're in a job transition, we want to be presenting to lots of people, getting lots of feedback. That's going to help us discover more about ourselves and what could be a good fit. So notice that that's one of the core things we actually teach in Right, is to use our fear to drive us and as a guide instead of trying to avoid the fear moment by moment. So for that, I'll put in a quick plug for our training that we do 4 times a year. It's a deep dive into social and emotional intelligence, January 6th through the 8th. We'll throw a link to it in there. Check it out. It's a deep training into how to use your emotions to your advantage instead of as a problem that you have to fix. So take a look at that. Josh, welcome, Joshua. Good to have you on here. Ahmed, thanks for joining in. And I just want to do a quick room reset for everybody. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We are here to serve you. Any questions that you have on your heart regarding your career, whether you're starting off in the interview process somewhere, or if you're at a company and you're looking to level up and you're looking for how to develop those relationships internally. Anything is on the table here in terms of your career. We want to support you in realizing your potential. So would love to hear from folks just joining in. We love it when you jump in on Zoom and we can work with you directly. Joshua.
Ahmed, good to have you here as well. Joshua, good to have you here. So I want to welcome you both. So just jump on in when you feel it. Okay.
Yes, that's the thing about this is it's very open. Share as you can.
So Joshua, did you have something you wanted to share? I wasn't sure if that was a direct request or not at that point.
No, I said thank you.
Okay.
I was watching on the live LinkedIn video for a while before I decided to jump in via Zoom.
Good to have you.
Cool, welcome. And Hind, I see you're using your son's laptop. So welcome, good to have you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for this space.
Yes, okay, great.
Nice.
Well, how can we help you today? What's on your mind?
Actually, I'm in a position where with the holidays, I don't know how to handle. I interviewed with 2 companies until yesterday, and I made it to the final rounds. Both of them said they're interested and want to put an offer. The first company, my interview with them was last Wednesday, so it's been a week. The second company, my last interview with them was yesterday. So the second company sent me an email today, and actually how this worked is I reached out to my manager from a previous job, asking him to be a referral for the first company. And he said, you know what, this is really good coincidence. I was thinking to bring you to the new company where I moved, and would you be still interested? So I said yes, and they moved things very fast to make sure that before I receive an offer, they get done with the rounds. Now, this morning email says, please keep us posted with the offer you receive. We want to be competitive. And I don't like tying 2 offers to each other. I want them to put their offer regardless without coming across as begging and desperate. So I was trying to flip that in my head. Also, the other company, they're taking it slow, like a whole week for an offer. Come on, guys, move on. So move fast or whatever. It's the holidays. I want my offer before Christmas. So wanted to talk to them without being pushy and come across as somebody that's impatient. And I was thinking of like flipping my head around this situation in the evening. But since I'm here in this space, I would like to use your wisdom.
So tell me, first of all, which is the position you really want most?
So both of them are kind of the same nature of the job. The only difference is with the first company that I interviewed with first, it's going to be kind of the same level that I'm at right now, maybe more benefits, maybe more money. That's like the growth would be in that dimension.
Mhm.
The second company, the nuances to it will be, I would be the first employee in the department. I'll get the chance to set the processes, the dynamic, the policies, bring in everybody, so kind of the lead / manager, because there is no person before me. I would be the one that puts the miles, like the stones, the foundation.
So
And
something
that's
tells
why
me
I'm like, I don't even know how to measure that because I haven't done it before. I'm excited about it, but I don't know. So I like them to say what they have,
So let me ask you, which is that the one where your previous boss is there? Is he the one who was from that second company that wants to make?
Yes.
So you've got that as an ally already, right?
Yes, I know they want me. They're just asking me about the second offer, and I don't want. So in life, it's just like dating. You shouldn't compare two men. You should just choose what's right for you.
Well, the interesting thing though that happens, it often happens, you get one offer, suddenly you get more than one because suddenly now you're in demand.
Yes.
So that's happening already. Have you actually got a fixed offer from the first person, from the first group yet?
I know that they reached out to my references. So I heard from my previous coworker and mentor. She reached out and said she just submitted an email for them. And I haven't heard since then. It's been 3 days. I haven't heard. I want to hear, but I don't want to come across as pushy. So that's why I'm stuck.
And the second company is saying what? They want to make sure that you don't accept another offer before they've had a chance to bid.
They said once I receive the first offer, I should let them know because they want to be competitive and fair. That's what they said.
Well, that's a maneuver on their part too. They want you to declare what the number is so they can
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, I don't want to do that because it's a new playground for me. I really don't know what's in it. I Googled salary for QA team lead, but a salary is just a salary. A salary without a benefit package means nothing. So
Yeah, I think that, well, I'd be interested in hearing, Drew, your perspective on this too. I'm going to take a quick shot at it and then I'd like you to jump in. At this point, it's really the position that matters and the kind of opportunity it represents. And then the salary would be reflective of that. So I think what you want to get them to do is declare the number. It would be my sense. And that you do that by saying, right now, what's really important is having a good understanding of the position and the opportunities there. And have you already got a pretty clear picture of it, or is there other further clarification you'd like on that?
I don't have a number. All I know is they offer 100% health insurance. That's the only thing I know from their benefit package, but I don't know a number for the salary. There is no, we talked about the opportunity and the responsibilities. We didn't talk about the offer.
But in terms of when you look at the responsibilities that they've laid out, that sounds like it's more than what you've had before. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely.
So that you're looking at a salary number that's going to be proportionately higher than what you've done before, correct?
I would assume that, yes, because if you would be the person that builds a home, you should be rewarded for that.
Yeah. So keep that in mind, that's really what your understanding is. And, at this point, there's no rush. I know Christmas is, you want to get it by Christmas, but you're in the driver's seat right now. But I'd like to hear from Drew. I'd like to hear your position on this, Drew.
Yeah, I have sympathy for both companies in different ways. The first company, they're taking the perception is that they're taking their time to get this offer together. They may be waiting on somebody from HR to approve the salary, and somebody and with where we are with the holidays, there could be one person that's sort of holding that whole process up. And I know that if I'm excited about a candidate and it's taking me a minute or two to get an offer out, I never looked down on a candidate for reaching back out to me and saying, hey, I'm still very interested in the role. I would just love to talk more about the specifics. And if possible, I'd love to talk before the new year. I see that as a good thing and a vote of confidence, as long as they're not coming at me, too aggressively. On the flip side, the other company, it sounds like it's the first time they're really hiring for a role like this or a department like this.
Yes.
And they potentially want to be respectful of you. And so they're trying to, they're doing that dance, but also making sure that when they make an offer, it's something that you'll really like. Now, the problem is that we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing a lateral move to an advancement move. So even if you had the lateral move job offer, that's not going to give your new company the data to be competitive, because they really should be going above and beyond that. And it's so, you know, there's so many ways that you can go about this. My personal approach, if a company, if they're looking for a salary range from me before they're willing to make an offer, which I've run into before, and you know, I've had to give some sort of range, I go an extra probably 25 to 30% over the highest end of my range. I go for it big, and I give them a number that I know is big, and then we can work backwards from there, and at least gives us a starting point. And it's worked out well for me in the past. Again, that's every industry is a little different. You don't want to shock people by asking for something that's too high. So you need to kind of do your due diligence of like, what's the acceptable salary range, and then really, you know, kind of be at the top range of that. But there are times where I've had to give a salary range before I was, and usually it's a little earlier in the interview process, where like in the first conversation, they're like, you know, what's the range that you're looking for? Let's make sure we're in the same boat. Sounds like that didn't quite happen, but I guess I'd be curious now to kind of toss that back to Gordon and see, is that sound advice, you know, or are you more conservative on that front?
No, I like the way you put it. And I think what you want to do is, if you're going to give them a number, give them a number that you really can live with. Don't give them one that has a low end that if they said, okay, we can give you this, and you say, no, that's not going to do it. So you want to make sure that you're giving them a number that you really feel like would be a win for you at the level you want. Yeah. The other thing is, as you were saying, Drew, this is a new position, higher level of responsibility. What research can you do to find out what those jobs typically pay, and get a sense of that market? So that would be another reference point that you could you could even refer to the market.
At this point. So the thing is, for a while, like this could be compared to, the job is a QA engineer, a person that tests software. And because
what's the job again? Could you say that again?
QA software engineer, the person that makes sure that the software does what it needs to be doing. Okay. So the newer company, the second company that wants to bring me as the person that laid the foundation, for a while, I would be a man that wears multiple hats. So I will do the entire teamwork and put the entire system and everything in. And once we're ready to make a jump and bring people in, then that would happen. So I don't know of a company that functions that way. Like when I Google a QA team lead or a manager, this is not really a QA team lead or a manager. This is a person that does the whole thing. And I don't mind doing it. I mean, the things that they're speaking about, I'm capable of handling. It's just, I don't have any reference to refer to as far as going online.
Well, what I'm hearing is there's a range that you could find about what this position would be for something that's already in place, and your number is going to be higher than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Hind, I want to check something out with you. Where Asaya shared something I'll share in a moment, but I may have missed it. Is one of these opportunities one that you prefer over the other?
They both have their pros and cons. And depending on what they lay down, I would love to make my decision. I'm about to start a master's degree. So that being said, the first opportunity, because everything is already in place, might be a better fit for that situation. But I'm also looking for a higher pay for certain financial obligations. And if I meet that, it would be worth kind of like postponing the master's degree for 1 year until I take care of this process, and then things would be easy flow.
So, okay, that's interesting. And Asaya shared that some companies will use your information but won't hire, or will hire and then let you go after you've gotten them started. So that's just kind of underlining putting your price up high so that you know you're taken care of. And in the same process, the one that's a lateral move is making sure that you maintain a good relationship with them. And if you're there for a year and it's not a place that you want to continue at, that you would be able to, go back or whatever. But but there's also the side, I think, around, getting to know you more and what's really important to you. and having an opportunity to launch yourself and develop your leadership skills and get the pay that you want, that could be really great for you. That might be the best move that you could do.
Yes, that's why I'm even considering the second opportunity, because it's really a growth towards the management level of things. And that's exciting. I mean, at this point of my career, I've been in this career for 6 years. I switched careers 6 years ago. So to hit that benchmark within these years is really exciting. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just meeting you for the first time, but hearing you talk and hearing the way you speak about this, I already have a vision for you, which is to start this master's program and take on this extra responsibility. I think you could handle that capacity, and you'll get way more out of both experiences by learning on the academic side and being able to apply on the professional side. I think you could absolutely do that. Bet on yourself in that scenario. Don't talk yourself out of that.
Drew, you might know something about that, huh?
Just a little bit. So yeah, I started a master's program last year in the same month that I started a brand new job. And,
Wow.
and now, that job is now being phased out. And actually, when I was negotiating this previous job, there were two negotiation points I was really proud of, or my current job. A was the salary. I asked for a number that I was not expecting to get, and I got it. And it made me it made me say yes right away. If you have to give a number that's going to take the question out of it. And it 100% did that. The other thing I negotiated was I have twice the amount of tuition reimbursement than anybody else on my team. So I would, and if you're going into a master's, and it was big. I mean, it was, instead of 5,000 in tuition, it was 10. It was a big contribution to my education.
I'm looking actually to put that in the table for the negotiation part, if they can take that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, thinking creatively about, you talk about the benefits packages and the tuition reimbursement, educational allowances. If you're somebody who's going to take advantage of those, it can be a huge benefit.
Definitely, yes. I'm already approved for the loan, but I don't want to hit that if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%.
Thank you. Appreciate the encouragement.
That is excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I want to underline what Drew said, that you are the gift. You are the and that's our approach, by the way, is that you are interviewing the interviewers.
Yes.
And so you have a lot to give. They're lucky to have you. And Asaya is agreeing online as well, in various ways. So if you get a chance, you check the chat and see what she's sharing. Asaya, I love your engagement from online today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Hind, keep us updated. Let us know how it goes.
Definitely, yes. I
I wanted to
appreciate
just
you.
add-
I've got your contacts. I got you on LinkedIn, so I will definitely reach out once I get more updates.
Good. One other question I had before you jump off is the person that you know at the company, is that somebody you trust, and is that a reliable support person for you?
Both companies I had insiders. The first company I had a coworker from my current job. The second company I had kind of a manager level from a previous job, and I trust both of them. So from what I'm seeing, it's actually really funny because they're across the street from each other. I mean, you guys must be kidding me. It's pretty much similar. Even the ratings on Glassdoor, they're very close to each other, except one fact. This is something that's getting established, and this is something that's already established. That's the only difference between the two.
Sounds exciting. Good luck to
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. So thank you, Hind, for jumping in, and Drew, thank you for sharing. Asaya, thank you for your comments. I'm going to give a quick room reset. We can probably get to one more topic before we wrap up today. And I want to address Ken Johnson. Yes, we can absolutely set up a time to talk about mentoring and coaching. Jane will put in a link for where you can set up 15 minutes with me, and that goes for anybody joining in. If you want to connect one-to-one with me, click on that link, set up a time to talk with me. I'm happy to help you as much as I can in that time. I know we're online here, and it's like, I really appreciate everybody sharing vulnerably and sharing what you're working on here. It serves the people who are joining in and listening. And I also want to acknowledge that if there's stuff that you don't want to discuss on here, set up some time with me outside of here. So thank you for that. And this is Career Lab Wednesday, every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. We are here to serve you, to support you in becoming who you can become by way of your career. And with that, I want to check in with anybody to see if there's any more support that we can offer today before we wrap up. Joshua, I know you're checking in here and wanting to see if there's anything that you would like to share before we sign off today. Good having you here.
Well, thank you. Appreciate being here. As far as what to share, I'm still trying to figure out what this whole thing's about. Picking up some tips from people speaking and, moving forward. I'm kind of at a delicate time in my career, you could say. I've had a lot of health problems the last couple of months. I've been in and out of the hospital.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, quite extensively. Now, luckily it sounds like that's behind me and I'm ready to move forward. But since September, I've been, 2 weeks in the hospital, out for a week or two, back in for a week. I just did about almost a whole month in rehabilitation treatment center. So now just kind of getting back on my feet. Just got done last week with my medical stuff, just kind of looking around.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just kind of a bad time of the year to be looking, or not necessarily looking, but, finding something. Because my company that I was with, business is really slow this time of the year. And so they don't need anyone coming back. Now I can either wait it out and come back in February or look for something else.
What could you look for that would just get you engaged right now? Because you've had some business development experience in the past. I was just looking at your LinkedIn, and so what could you be engaging? And this is to tie back to something Drew said a little bit ago about activity begets activity. And so whatever you can be doing in this time, even if that opportunity isn't going to open up until February,
right,
what can you be doing now that's just going to get you moving and get you, you're in a state of transition, getting back into health. And so how do you kind of use that, leverage your well-being?
Well, I've been applying for different companies. I'm not necessarily hurting per se. It's more stir crazy, being bored, just wanting to get back out, but as far as what I'm kind of doing now, I've had some phone interviews. We'll see what comes about that. But Christmas is this week. I'm not really expecting much to come before the new year. But I am talking, my resume contains sales leadership, business development. I've created and started 2 different sales floors, managed those in a very short time. I'm only 27 and I've generated millions for different companies. So, and that goes for a lot of it. A lot of my career has been in the health and wellness, supplemental or pharmaceutical, biohacking community.
Okay.
So anywhere from healthcare to, a yogi, really. I mean, anyone.
So keep us updated. I look forward to being with you, and I want to get to know you more and see what it is that you want to develop about yourself in the job. That's one of the key things that we find is you creating purpose for yourself in whatever role you're taking on. So what companies help you fulfill your potential? So let's keep that conversation open. And I also wanted to just address something Asaya brought in here. Asaya, we got to get you back in on Zoom. Come in next week so we can talk to you directly there. Talking about working on character and leadership, too confident and intimidating other people around you. So this is great stuff, because oftentimes leaders can turn people away and not have as good of relationships as you could. And
So
Asai,
George, how about a quick reference to the More Life training, which is coming up in June or January?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
So Asai, as you're listening in, what you want to, one pathway you can take is to get in more tune with your fear, with your anxiety, and actually use that as a way to connect with other people. So learning to ask what other people's concerns are. Learn, you're not going to say, what are you afraid of? Because it doesn't make sense in corporate land. But saying, what concerns do you have? And listening to that and using, so instead of having to make a case for yourself and say, I'm competent, I can do this, and here's what we got to do, to really listen in and hear people so that as you're working out solutions together, they're going to feel more connected to you and less like you're telling them what to do. So that's just a very high level approach. I want to see if that helps. Play with that over the holidays. Ask people what their concerns are. Get in touch with that. We seek to use our fear, our anxieties for valuable information and to help drive us towards things that we want. And so if you can get that from other people and get alignment there, that's an approach that tends to work well. So I want to hear from you. You've been sharing a lot in here, and I've enjoyed that. So also, we go into a deep dive on this in the More Life training. We go into each of the core feelings: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy, and we use those to make deeper connections with people. We use our feelings to have deeper contact with ourselves, with other people, and it ends up bringing a much more nourishing time in our jobs, in our connections with our family. So I invite everybody listening in to be paying attention to your feelings. That's something that research shows, is that when people are asked towards the end of their life, what do you regret the most? One of the common things people say is, I regret that people didn't really know how I felt. I regret that I didn't really share about how I felt about things, that people didn't really know me and what I cared about. And that's, if you look at all the great Christmas movies, that's in there. That deep sense of care and connection and really sharing our hearts. So I invite everybody into that this holiday season. And I look forward to hearing from you all and wishing you many deep connections, much nourishment with your family and friends, and looking forward to supporting you into an exciting career in 2023.
One thing I'd like to also add is I really want to thank Drew for being here today. We get the benefit of somebody who not only is going through the process, but also has a lot to share about how to do it well. So we're getting a twofer here. I'm delighted, and I hope to see you more here. Okay.
That's the plan. I really appreciate the support. It's great to be with everybody. Thank you.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Great.
Happy holidays.
Well, happy holidays.
Bye.